A couple years ago, I played Shadow of Mordor, and although it had some great mechanics and some cool ideas, it just wasn't able to keep me engaged for very long, and I put it down after 10 hours. Recently, I decided that I would give Shadow of War a chance after hearing nothing but praise for it, and unfortunately, I pretty much felt the exact same about this game throughout my entire playtime. And even though I tried really hard to finish the game, I eventually ended up dropping it after 20 hours without even completing the main story for reasons that I'll discuss throughout this review. Shadow of War continues the tale of Talion and Celebrimbor as they forge a new ring of power to challenge Sauron, and it offers a widely varied gameplay experience with a mix of action, strategy, and stealth elements. You can engage in brutal combat with hordes of orcs, strategic stealth missions, and even large-scale battles, where you'll face off against a rival overlord for control over their fortress. The game is incredibly freeform and allows for a large variety of playstyles no matter what type of activity you're doing. Combat is relatively simple on paper, pretty much just feeling like rock, paper, scissors, where you attack when you have an opening and parry or dodge when the game gives you a prompt to do so. And in a 1 versus 1 situation, the game is just about as easy as it sounds, but the difficulty in Shadow of War stems entirely from overwhelming you with hordes of orcs, each with their own unique strengths and weaknesses. Ologs, for example, require you to first stun them by shooting them in the head with an arrow or hammer, and then mounting them, where you'll proceed to continuously stab them in the back. If weapons alone aren't getting the job done good enough, the game offers you tons of different environmental tools to use at your discretion. You have grog barrels which explode with fire when shot and can also be poisoned, eggs that summon ghouls, spider sacks, Morgai fly hives, and meat sacks that can summon wild caragors or graugs. There's a ton of variety when it comes to enemies and strategies that turns the game from simply being Osu, where you're pressing buttons as they appear, into an actual action combat experience, where you have to strategically pick off priority targets and learn the best ways to defend, attack, stalk your prey, and sometimes even just run away when you're being surrounded by over a dozen enemies. Alongside this, you get plenty of unique skills and gear to choose from. In terms of perks, you're able to upgrade each individual aspect of combat, such as simply dealing more damage with your sword and enabling parry attacks while in execute animations. You can also learn to tame the local wildlife, allowing you to dominate graugs, caragors, and drakes to use in combat. As for gear, you're able to equip a sword, a dagger, a ranged weapon which can be either a bow or hammer, armor, a cloak, and a ring. There are all the generic RPG rarities such as common, rare, epic, and of course legendary, which offers you set bonuses. All gear can be equipped with runes that can increase damage, grant health recovery, increase XP gains, etc. Epic and legendary gear also come with bonus stats and perks that can be unlocked by completing a specific challenge for that piece of gear. The map in Shadow of War is massive, but I wouldn't really call it a true open world, as it consists of several smaller instances sectioned off from each other and locked behind loading screens. So it's not like you can just seamlessly run between each one, but each region is still relatively large, they're all unique in terms of aesthetics, and they each contain tons of content for you to experience. Upon entering a new region, you'll first want to purify Hadir Towers. Doing so will allow you to scan the map for collectible content such as Ithilden poems and Shelob memories. There are tons of collectibles to be found in each zone, and it can easily soak up several hours of your playtime if you're into that type of thing. When it comes to exploration, the parkour system is amazing, but sometimes the controls can be really freaking obnoxious. You can climb pretty much everything, including rock walls, and you'll seamlessly move between structures with single or double jumps, and thankfully there is absolutely no fall damage. But on occasion, the game will just not cooperate, and you'll snap to the wrong part of a building, they'll go sideways when you want to go up, you'll fall when you're trying to jump, sometimes your character just won't move at all, etc. A lot of the time, this game feels very unresponsive to your actions, almost like it's cueing your button presses rather than immediately registering them. Thankfully, this isn't so commonplace in the game that it can be easily replicated, but it happens often enough that it can become a major point of frustration, and I've had moments where I'll get so fed up with it that I just turn the game off immediately. But anyway, forget about parkour, because Nemesis content is really what this game focuses on above all else. Chances are, if you've heard literally anything about Shadow of War, it was probably about the Nemesis system. To put it simply, the Nemesis system will randomly generate special arc units for each individual region that are completely unique to every player. They all come with their own evil little monologues, which are pretty cool and sometimes even funny at first. But they quickly become very annoying, especially when you realize that they're forced on you literally every single time you encounter a new captain, and there's no way to skip them.
I make you look good.
Orcs can spawn as one of 10 different classes, each with their own unique strengths and weaknesses, and sometimes they'll even adapt to your movesets, so if you vault or try to stun them too often, you'll be blocked from doing that entirely. Some orcs may be terrified of spiders and can be killed instantly using stealth attacks, while other orcs have no fears and are absolutely stacked with buffs. In order to learn all this information though, you first need to gain intel from grunts with a green symbol over their head. These guys allow you to either discover an entirely new captain or reveal intel about a previously known foe. At the start of the game, all you can really do is kill these guys for special loot. Depending on their rarity, they'll drop you loot accordingly upon death. After progressing a little bit into the story, however, you'll get the option to dominate orcs and build your very own army. There's a ton more little nuances to this system, like how you need to shame orcs in combat to lower their level so that you can recruit them into your army. If a random orc kills you, it gets promoted to captain. Sometimes orcs will come back from the dead with a vengeance, or they'll fight amongst themselves and progress in rank and level, etc. You'll also occasionally get missions where you'll be tasked with killing an orc in a very specific way, while also completing side objectives to earn extra rewards, or you'll have to draw out a war chief by performing stealth kills, dominating troops, etc. Unfortunately, these quests get repetitive very quickly due to them being randomly generated and oftentimes incredibly simple in nature, which resulted in me skipping them more often than not because after you've done about 5 of them, you've done them all, and they just don't offer enough of a reward to actually waste time completing them. Back to army building though, once you've recruited a formidable force, you are now able to partake in fortress conquest missions where you'll be conquering a fortress from a rival overlord. You're able to pick your own captains to lead the assault, alongside upgraded ground troops that can specialize in frontline defense, siege, or support from the background, and you'll be tasked with capturing various points as you make your way to the man in charge. You also get access to fight pits in which you pit one of your own orcs against an enemy captain, and if he comes out on top, he increases in level. But if he fails, he's just kinda dead forever. And if you really want to, you can even pit your own orcs against other players in online fight pits and online fortress captures. And on paper, this is all amazing. But as insane as this sounds, I think the game focuses on the Nemesis system way too much. My entire playtime pretty much just consisted of shaming orcs to lower their level, chasing them halfway across the map, and defeating them a second time so that I could recruit them for my army, then using that army to capture the fortress in the region, and repeating this process all over again for the next region. I just wish they would have focused more on the core aspects of the game coming together as a whole, rather than putting so much emphasis on the Nemesis system and making it practically the entirety of the game. And it's not a joke, by the way. If you strip the Nemesis system out of this game, it loses about 90% of its content. Overall, I think Shadow of War has the potential to be an incredible game thanks to its large world to explore and tons of content to keep you occupied, such as the Nemesis system. But I think that its dependence on that system is also its biggest weakness, and paired with the incredibly frustrating controls and generic, painfully boring quest, I just can't help but feel that the game is incredibly lackluster. Thanks for watching, goodbye.